Welcome back to MurrayMax. We have another clip here from the Whatever podcast, and as usual, I haven't watched it yet, so we're going to watch it together, and I'm going to share some thoughts on it. This is a topic that's come up here on the Whatever podcast quite a few times, but it's always interesting to hear the mental gymnastics and the odd justification from the people who make these claims, which is that white people cannot suffer racism. So let's dig in here. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. It's always entertaining to see how people's brains, I guess, don't work. So let's dive in.
Shannon, you did a squiggly line. People of color can't be racist towards white people.
I don't think the word should be...
To which you agree.
I put the squiggly because I think the wording, I don't think that they can be racist, but I think that they can
prejudice.
I think it'd be prejudice.
And then, Gabby, you also circled that people of color can't be racist towards white people.
Nope.
What's your position there?
It's the same thing. You can be prejudiced, but not racist.
Okay. Can you explain it to me?
Racism, it's more systematic when you really think about it.
Just real quick, the definition of racism is the belief that one race is superior to another, leading to discrimination, prejudice, or antagonism directed against individuals or groups based on their race or ethnicity. Nothing that she's going to go on about has anything to do with that.
Because we had the civil rights movement for a reason. We were, I can't say we because I'm mixed. I mean, I don't know.
Are you like 50-50 mixed?
Yeah, 50-50. But it was...
Dad's black or mom's black?
Dad's black.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, but it was a more or less of a thing that black people had to fight for the rights as well as other people of colors. And to this day, there's still ways that they're being oppressed. And the prison system is a way that it really shows. Black people get incarcerated at higher rates. And when you're in prison, you work for like 5 cents.
Wait, one question on that. So you said related to the prison thing. Mm-hmm. So you're saying there's a disproportionality comparing whites to blacks in the prisons. Like black people are more likely to be convicted of crimes.
Yes.
Incarcerated. And you think, would you say that's because of racism?
Not inherently, no, because everyone commits crimes, but a part of it kind of is. The whole prison system, like the working, initially when it was started, it was just a way to incarcerate black people and have them do more slave work.
There's no massive profits being pumped out of inmate work from prisons. Yes, there can be some programs where there's a profit made by either the state or the county or whoever, depending on the prison, whether it's private or a state-funded institution. But taxpayers are footed the bill for inmates across the nation, and the average inmate costs between $30,000 and $50,000 per year to keep incarcerated. So this idea that we should be also giving them the same wages as people who aren't a burden on the taxpayer. You committed crimes. You lost your freedom. You knew the agreement. You knew that what you were doing was wrong, and now you're paying the price for it. Nobody owes you a, quote, livable wage, like the left likes to call these $30, $40, $50 an hour bottom line requirements. If you're working for lower pay because you're an inmate in a prison, think about how much it costs to even just cover all the expenses for the institution that we require to keep you in because of your behavior. Non-argument. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Historically,
and it was mainly in the South. Yeah.
Yeah, historically, yes. There's an
still
incentive
to this day,
there.
There's still like...
But they still work. They still work in prison for like peanut wages, and sometimes they get time off. But
it's iffy. But it's more or less like racism is the systematic oppression, not just a hate of their skin color.
Okay, but question for you. So you're pointing towards there's a discrepancy in convictions and incarceration between whites and blacks. But what if I told you that discrepancy is orders of magnitude greater comparing men to women? So, and you're pointing towards, the discrepancy between white and black that's due to racism, right? Well, then surely following your own logic, you would have to say that the discrepancy between men and women in the prison system must be due to sexism.
No, and that's the different thing. Black men are most of the time prosecuted because of their skin color and sent, like, they get charges against them. But there's other ways black women face racism, specifically.
Well, white men are more incarcerated than black women.
That's what I'm getting to. It's different a little bit for the genders within the black community, but the thing is with black women, it's also they're less likely to get proper treatment in hospitals and things like that. There's a
but let's stick to the prison thing.
Well, okay.
Can you explain that?
Can you reiterate?
Well, so my question to you was, you're pointing towards the discrepancy between whites and blacks in prison as evidence of racism. And I'm telling you that there's an even greater discrepancy between men and women in prison. So that too should then be evidence that would be due to sexism? Following your own logic?
No, because that's a whole different thing.
How is it different?
That's a gender breakdown, not a race breakdown.
But if you're saying a discrepancy exists, right?
Between the races, yes.
This is the cherry picking the left does. The left will say, okay, so there are more per capita of this race in prison than this race. They'll say, that's racism. And then someone on the right might say, well, isn't it possible that maybe people of a certain group commit crimes at a higher rate? They'll say, just the fact that you would even suggest that is racism. And then if you say, like Brian's saying, okay, so how do you then explain the fact that not only is there more men in prison than women, but even when men commit the same crimes as women, they get much lower, the women get much lower sentences than the men do. I mean, we've all seen it before where it's like, you know, a school teacher does something bad with a student at a school. And if it's a man, you know, he's going to get 15 years in prison, which, I mean, good. Throw the book at him, throw the key away. But then when it's a woman, it's like 18 months probation. That'll teach you. And it'll be the exact same thing. And even if you want to say that, like, the dynamics of that are different, okay, a man, you know, unalives his wife, and he does so with a knife. Life in prison. The wife unalives her husband with a knife. Well, I mean, she did smoke some pot, and like it really wasn't her fault, even though she stabbed him 168 times, and so we'll give her 18 months probation. You know, how do you connect these two different groups, the different races of the same sex versus different sexes, and say, well, this one over here is definitely because of racism, and this one over here, nope, couldn't possibly be sexism because it's not bad towards women, so it can't be sexism. It's just like that racism argument. You can't be racist towards white people, and you can't be sexist towards men. It's so silly.
Between the races, and you're saying this discrepancy exists because racism. So you'd have to acknowledge that there is a discrepancy between men in the prison system and women in the prison system. There's far more men. That discrepancy is far greater between men and women than it is between black and white. So this must be due to sexism, right?
I'd say more or less because most men commit more violent crimes and things like that. There's a higher percentage of men committing violent crimes.
You sure you want to make this argument?
Yes and no, but
okay.
You're probably going to be right.
Hold on, but if I were to present to you evidence that if there were statistics that showed that black people committed more crimes, would that then explain away your claims that it's due to racism for the discrepancy between white and black?
Depends on the crime. I know it's not my question, but I think it depends on the crime.
A little bit, yeah. But I can't really defend that because, honestly, I did some research on this, but not as much as I probably should have, which is kind of crappy.
She probably means she's watched a couple TikTok videos.
I'd say that's more or less because of the just higher incarceration rate, and also because of other things within the Black community itself, like gang violence and things like that. So I mean, yes and no. I don't.
I do think that there might be some sexism in there, for sure. I mean, we allow men to push down their emotions and they go bigger, right? Women are doing more small crime and small things. You get the slap on the wrist. So there's definitely both cases. You have sexism and racism going on, for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at sentencing disparity, right? So there's some statistics that indicate, and I'd actually have to do more research to say something definitive, that there's a sentencing disparity. So the length of the sentence, the prison sentence, between whites and black, there's disparity there.
Yeah.
But the disparity, again, not just the incarceration rate, but the disparity in terms of sentence length, incarceration length, is again the disparity between men and women dwarfs the disparity between white and black.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, for example, I mean, look, I could give you anecdotes. You guys could probably give me anecdotes in return. Or well, perhaps it's not anecdotes.
Just in general, if you just even give it a quick look, the disparity in prison sentences, male versus female, women receive 30% or more less of a sentence for the exact same crime as men. And that takes into account, prior convictions and all that stuff.
I mean, and I think this happened in Ventura, Felicity. So I don't know if you kind of live in that, you live further down south. There was this woman who was smoking marijuana with her boyfriend, or like casual hookup or situationship, and she had like marijuana-induced psychosis.
Yeah. And
then she stabbed him to death and also stabbed her dog. Wow. He died. She got let off with probation.
No.
And community service.
Wow.
I would find it very unlikely if a man murdered a woman.
Yeah.
Even if it was marijuana-induced psychosis, whatever that is, stabbed her to death, that he would get off. Yeah. He would not see the inside of a prison cell.
Unless he's got a lot of money, like a whole boatload.
Even then.
Yeah, and he's fleeing the country.
Stabbed her dog.
Oh, yeah. But I think that's two separate things. Like this.
Okay, also, she stabbed her boyfriend 108 times. 108 times. This would be on the news if the roles are reversed as being a major atrocity. The dude would probably get life in prison, no parole. People would be saying that marijuana is not an excuse. But, this chick, 108 times she stabbed him. And she was given 2 years probation and 100 hours of community service. No prison time. Not even 3 months prison time. Not even 108 days for the 108 stabs. So, and of course this is anecdotal, but it is kind of a testament to a larger picture. This does not, don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming that, if any woman goes out there and does the same thing as this chick, that they'll get 100 hours of community service and 2 years probation. But just the fact that this can even happen, and there's not marching in the streets, there's no protests, it's just like, oh, well, yeah, that's what happens. Everyone's kind of accepted this.
Thing that's going on where it's like, yeah, I agree. Like, it's like, and I think a lot of us do, where women can get away with certain things that men can't. But then the disparity of race, of course, is a separate.
Can I ask for some clarification? Because isn't the question white people can't experience racism? So if something
we can bring it back to that.
I'm just a little confused. And I'm asking because obviously it's not really like my question or my fight, right? But I'm just wondering, so if somebody were to do a crime, because you're talking about prison system, against someone because they were white, is that not racism? I hope I don't sound ignorant. I'm really just trying to clarify.
That was a good question.
It is a good question.
Look at how pathetic it is that you even have to be so soft and be like, so if the roles were reversed and somebody, attacked somebody just for being white, would that be considered racism? And please, I'm not trying to be offensive, and please don't take that personal, because I'm not trying to offend anybody, and I'm so sorry that I even asked the question in the first place. It's so ridiculous. The public narrative has gone so far that you even have to be apologetic for even asking, is it racism if somebody murders a white person just because their skin is white?
And in that sense, I'd say, yeah, I guess. Probably, yeah, that would be a form of racism. It's just the bigger picture is systematic. I'd say more prejudice, I guess, because it's based in just hate and a dislike for that, I guess.
For that race.
And racism isn't based in hate and dislike of a race. They can't even explain what they're talking about because none of these thoughts are even independent thoughts. None of it's critical thinking. It's just repeating what some Yahoo on TikTok said or what some liberal professor at school told them. None of it makes any sense.
Though,
Yes,
right?
for the race.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Maybe I feel like maybe I don't understand what
it's okay.
the word
What-
racist definitionally means. I don't know.
But so, are there any instances where a black person can be racist towards a white person?
You're asking me?
Oh, I thought you were squiggly on this
Oh.
because you said it was prejudice, right?
Yeah, just the word.
Yeah, but I'm asking racist.
I agree with, what was your name again?
Gabby.
Gabby.
Damn. How could you forget my homegirl's name?
I apologize. It's me and my memory.
It's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, I would just say I agree with you that it's like racism is systemic and like white people don't face the same type of systemic racism. So other races can be prejudiced towards white people, but it's not the same exact racism.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some counter arguments here. I think you could argue that affirmative action is systemically racist against white people.
Why? Women got so many benefits out of affirmative action. We benefited.
He's obviously talking about the racial aspect of it.
White women?
Well, there's gender-based affirmative action, race-based affirmative action. So you would argue if perhaps otherwise more merit-based white candidates were overlooked because of their race.
Yeah.
You actually see this happening a lot with Asian students in particular. So there's a big scandal with these Ivy League schools, Harvard, for example. So as an Asian person, you had to score way higher than white people, Latino people, and black people to be able to get in. So that was like a sort of, and Asian people are minorities, but they're not the right kind of minority in the sense of, well, they're discriminated against in a different sort of way.
Definitely still discrimination.
It is still discrimination, but with Harvard, basically they're these Asian people are way too smart, and we're letting too many of them in.
Wow,
That would be a racist against Asian people, just in a sort of different way.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to cut it off there because we all know how this goes. It's just going to go in circles and circles with the same old played out arguments. Well, it has to be systemic and because there's a history of this. And it's like, no, if you see someone walking down the street and they're a different color and you go, man, those people who have that color, only because they have that color is why I don't like them. That's just racist. No matter who you are, you don't have to have this systemic this and that and the power of all these institutions and the organizational and the intersectional and the microaggressional and just all these things that you have to go to university to be stupid enough to believe. Let me know in the comments what you think. This video is exactly what I expected it to be, and I hope you guys like these videos. Give it a like, give it a share. I'm sure there'll be some trolls in the comments explaining to me how, you just don't understand because as a person of this, you couldn't understand oppression and blah, 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 blah. And it's I've responded to all of these arguments a million times, and you're not saying anything new, and you're actually not even saying anything that's an independent thought of yours. I get told things like, well, your ancestors and you're this and you're that when they're talking about slavery in the United States and stuff. And it's let me remind you that my dad came to the U.S. when he was a child. And so it's been 50 years since my dad's even been in the country. And so somehow, because of my skin color, that makes me responsible for atrocities that happened in this country well over 150 years ago because my dad wasn't even here until the 1950s or 60s or something. But anyways... Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in MurrayMax. I'm going to keep making some videos.